still better than the actual movie. What is up, guys? This is Make Me Chief Fan here. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my March 2nd part of my wrap-up. I know it's late. It is way too late for me to make a video. Or it's been a while since I made my last video, but you know what? I'm here. That's all that matters. I have 10 books to talk about because I'm excellent. So, anyway, let's just get right into it because I don't want to drag out this intro any longer. Now, just like normal, I'm going to separate this video into the non-physical copybooks and the physical copybooks. And I actually have quite the motherload in physical copybooks, so yeah, that's actually really good. So I don't have to drag on with non-physical copybooks because I only have 4 that are not here with me. So yeah, dragging this out, let's get started. And what better way to get started than with 2 Kurt Vonnegut books. I'm back in the Vonnegut, guys. I'm back in the Vonnegut. And the first one that I read was Deadeye Dick. And yeah, it's great. It's great. Just like any other Kurt Vonnegut novel because it's Kurt Vonnegut. What else do I have to say? It's Kurt Vonnegut. But I am going to say something else because then that would not mean I would talk about it properly. So this book is pretty much centered around a boy who turns into a man, and his father was friends with Hitler, and there's like this. Then there's a bomb. There's always either a bomb or an apocalypse in a Kurt Vonnegut book. And there's like a double murder. Don't even ask what it is, that'd just be a spoiler. But you go with it for now. But Deadeye Dick, I like the whole premise around it. I really, really like the story and the characters. The only problem that I could possibly have with this book, actually, you know what? It's actually the characters besides the main 2. I don't really think that I think the characters are one of Vonnegut's weaker aspects. So, there is 2 main characters, like 2 characters that are focusly centered around this book, and that is the father and the son, which our son is our main character. But the other characters are there, but they're not really interesting. Like the idea that his father was friends with Hitler, it's like used, but it's not used to its full potential. So, it's not my favorite Vonnegut by any stretch of the imagination, but you know what? It's still good. I gave it a 4 out of 5, so that's enough all I have to ask. Guys, I have a confession to make. I found a bad Kurt Vonnegut book. I know, the sound of it is very traumatizing, but this book traumatized me too. Because it's probably the worst book I read in the month. It's Galapagos by Kurt Vonnegut. I'm sorry. I did not like this book at all. It's like a borderline 1 out of 5 stars. Why, Kurt Vonnegut? You were having such a great bibliography, and then you had to make this! Why? Why? Alright, enough exaggeration. Galapagos is about a cruise line that goes to the Galapagos, and while the passengers are at the Galapagos, the apocalypse happens. And yeah, I'm not going to spoil any more, but really, there's not much to spoil, because 2/3 of the book is really terrible character study. Like, I swear to God, Kurt Vonnegut would not stop about the character study. Oh my goodness! Just stop with the character study, Kurt. You're not like that. You're for zaniness, hilarity, and just pure insanity. That's what you are. You're not for character study. Unless if your name is Billy Pilgrim, I don't want any character study, okay? So, Galapagos, it's a bad book. And also, the story doesn't pick up until, like, page 300 or so out of a 350-page book. I kind of like the last 50 pages, but that's because that's when the apocalypse happens. Oh, yeah, spoiler alert, the apocalypse doesn't happen until, like, 300 pages in. So there's, like, 300 pages of character study and pointless plot twists and plots. It's not a good book, guys. It's not a good book. Don't read it. It's junk. It's junk. I'm sorry, Kurt. I love you, but don't. I'm not buying this book. No way I am. Okay, this next book is kind of a weird specimen because I technically didn't read this, but I'm in the play! I'm in the play! And this is the play that we used, and we use the actual script, so why not count it in? It's A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare. Oh God, what is this? My sixth Shakespeare play? Sixth? Yeah, it's my sixth Shakespeare play. And wait, yeah, my sixth Shakespeare play. And it is really good. I really liked it. But the only problem that I have with the book is a major one. It drops it down from like a 4 out of 5 to a 3.5 out of 5. The characters, besides a certain group of them, are not really that interesting. They're there and they're a major part of the plot, but I was just not that big a fan of how these characters were put into the plot. That's my favorite. That's like a big problem with Shakespeare, is that he cannot do characters well. Besides Hamlet. Hamlet is the bomb diggity, but not a Midsummer Night's Dream. Like, there is one group of characters I'm going to talk about in a little bit that are awesome, but like the royals and like the romantics and just like a whole, and like the fairies. Oh my God, the fairies. What is the point of their dance? We know that we're mythical, but what is the point? I'm like sitting there just waiting for this certain group of characters to come in. And let's talk about those. If you've read A Midsummer Night's Dream or have seen a performance, you know that there's a group of characters that is led by a man named Nick Bottom. He's not really led, but he's the one that's really stands out of the bunch, or at least in my version of A Midsummer Night's Dream. But those characters are phenomenal. They're great. In fact, I may actually prefer them over Hamlet, guys. Oh my goodness, they're so funny. They're so likable. And even some of them are really relatable, actually, because there's like this woman, there's like this person who's forced to play a damsel in distress, like a really girly girl, but the person really wants to be a wandering warrior who can conquer the day. And it's hilarious. Those group of characters are hilarious. And besides the pointless fairy dances, the plot is really good. I do like A Midsummer Night's Dream. It's not my favorite. It's not Hamlet levels, but it's better than Macbeth and Othello. I didn't like Macbeth, and Othello was just alright. But it's definitely higher than Taming of the Shrew and Romeo and Juliet, which are atrocities. But it's a good play, which is something that's rare in Shakespeare's bibliography from what I can tell. And the final book for my non-physical copy pile is from an author who I made a major discovery with, and I am so in love with this author right now. Who is this author? It's David Foster Wallace. Now, you might be thinking Infinite Jest, but that's a good guess. But spoiler alert, that's later. Right now I'm going to talk about his most famous essay collection, Consider the Lobster, and other essays by David Foster Wallace. I have only read like 2 or 3 essay collections, and this, without a shred of doubt, is my favorite. There's like 1 or 2 essays that I didn't like out of this 12 essays or so, like 10 essay or 11 essay collection. That's enough to get a 4-star from me, guys. That's enough to get a 4-star from any collection of like essays or short stories or anything. Oh, these essays are so wittily. Is that a word? Wittily? It's so witty. It's such a witty style of writing. It's so hilarious, and also it's really informative about random topics, and the essays are really good. Like, if you have not read the essay Consider the Lobster, go read Consider the Lobster. I think it's somewhere on the internet, or just buy the collection, which is what I prefer. Just read Consider the Lobster, and just read David Foster Wallace. He's great. I'm going to go a little more in depth when I talk about Infinite Jest, which is later in this video. So, yeah, I'm just going to leave it off at there. Consider the Lobster and Other Essays is my favorite essay collection of all time. Yeah. And now, we're on to my physical copy pile, which I already did this shot, so I don't know why I'm doing it again. So let's get started with a new author that I discovered, Beloved by Toni Morrison. Now, I shouldn't really say discovered because, yeah, I thought this book was just alright. I know this is some of people's favorite book of all time. Like, I know one of my favorite booktubers say this is their favorite book ever, but personally, I just think it's alright. It's like it's about a woman named Seth I think that's how you pronounce her name, like Sethe or whatever. And she's like escaped slavery after the Civil War, and she went to the North, and she just tries to live her life, but she comes across like a whole ton of colorful characters, like Beloved, who's probably the best character in the whole book, and just a whole ton of other really, like, the one thing that I do like in this book are the characters. These characters do feel genuine with each other, and it's just really well done. In fact, like I said, my favorite character is Beloved, who is the title drop. But is this a masterpiece? No, not even close, because yeah, I did not like the story to this. The characters saved this book for me, but there's just not enough for me to carry this book to at least more than a 3 out of 5. It's just, I don't know. I really don't know, guys. There's something about this novel. It's the way, I know my major problem. The writing. I do not like how this book was written. Like, this is one of the books I had the most trouble getting into. Like, the first 50 pages, I was just like, when will it get interesting? And then Beloved came in, and it became a lot more, like, sensible. It made a lot more sense. But Toni Morrison is definitely an author that I'm not going to read any more of. I tried to read Sola, but that didn't interest me either, so I read her most famous book, and I'm just done. Sorry, guys. Didn't really like this one. Now, this next book is a weird specimen of mine, because I don't normally go out for books like this, because this is more of a children's book than anything. Like, it's a children's book. I'm not going to deny it, but it's a good one, guys. And that is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. This is about a kid who's autistic and tries to solve a murder mystery of a dog who got stabbed in the nighttime by a pitchfork. That's pretty much the story. But yeah, I really like the story. I really like the main character, who's named Christopher. I think he's a really fun character. And there's also great development on him and his father and his other characters as well. It's a really good book. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars, but you might be thinking, Graham, why didn't you rate it any higher? Why didn't you rate it to a 4-star? That's because it's how it's written. This, he tried to capture, he didn't do like a lazy way of writing it. He tried to capture the motive of like an autistic kid, but he is a very, very bland writer kid. Well, not bland kid, but he's like his writing is very bland. Like he said, like for example, this is how he structures the conversations. She said, I asked, and she said, I said, and she said, I said, and she said, and I said. Do you imagine me just talking like that over and over and over and over and over again throughout my book? I'm going to use some diversity in my language, guys. I'm going to use some diversity in my language. That's the only real major problem that I have with this book, but still, pretty enjoyable book if you ask me. The next 2 books are easily the 2 best books two of the best books that I've read so far this year, hands down, and one of them just blew my mind. But first, I'm going to talk about another 5-star rating, Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. Oh my goodness, this book slayed me. It's almost 600 pages long, and I read this in 2.5 days. I loved Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. It's so great. This is about a nameless protagonist who, like, we don't know his name. He has a name, but we don't know it. Trying to get into college, but but he's a black man, and this is during a time where segregation was really in its prime, because this was written in the 50s, and it's supposed to be centered around the 50s, or at present time. So, I love this book. I love the writing of this book. I think it's beautifully written. I also love the character of Whatnot. I'm going to call him Whatnot, because Whatnot is just like even though we don't know his name, there's so much depth to this character, because he makes a major transformation in like the middle of the book, and you can really feel the emotion that he goes through. And it's just gorgeous. It's really beautiful to see the story of this unfold. And I swear to God, this is one of the most thrilling first chapters I have ever read in my entire life. I swear to God, this first chapter is amazing. And he is an invisible man. I'm not gonna give that away on why he is, but just read this. It's amazing. I got my copy for $2 at a library bookstore. Just read this. It's amazing. And the next book, are you guys even, once I show this, you guys aren't even going to be surprised I give it a 5 out of 5. I've been meaning to read this book for a year now, and now I finally read it, and it's become one of my all-time favorites. What is it? It's To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Maybe it's the fact that I studied this in school, and which is kind of why I took a little longer to read this, because I wanted to, at first, keep up with the class reading schedule, but then I'm like, you know what, I love this so much, I gotta read it. But, if it wasn't for Gravity's Rainbow, this would be my favorite book of this year. It is a masterpiece. A gorgeous masterpiece. It is not an epic masterpiece, but it is a gorgeous masterpiece of symbolism, themes, and just overall characters. Like, if you don't know these characters, what are you doing? You know Scout, you know Jem, you know Atticus, you know Boo Radley. Boo Radley. Oh, it's so good. The characters are the best part of this book, but also the story is really good. Like, I swear to God, once we got to the trial scene, I could not put this thing down. It is that good. I love this book. Like, it has I didn't find any faults with this book. None whatsoever. That's why I gave it a 5 out of 5, because the one thing that I was not liking at first was changed with the trial scene. It's a masterpiece, guys. It's an American masterpiece. Even if you're not an American, you should probably read this because, you're gonna love it. I bet you're going to love it. I loved it, so why not? And the next book, I like to consider this book up there with Catch-22 as books that came closest to getting a 5 out of 5, but just didn't. And I'll tell you later, but it's probably what you guessed. Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. Guys, I read 1,000 pages. I finally read a 1,000-page book in my lifetime. And my God, was it worth it? Oh my God, it's so good. If you don't know what this is about a family called the Incandenzas and their experience in history in Massachusetts, Enfield, Massachusetts, and their experience in a lifetime in a tennis academy called Enfield Tennis Academy, or ETA. Wait, hold up. I think I got this wrong. No, it's actually about their father making numerous films and them trying to find his best film called Infinite Jest. Wait, hold up, I got this wrong again. It's about them using that film it's about these terrorists using this film to attack America, and there's also these 2 detectives that go after them. Wait, it's also about people destroying in Boston through the acts of entertainment and drugs. It's just, there's numerous plots in this book. Not numerous subplots, plots. Because if it's this large and has numerous plots, you're going to know why. This is like the Les Mis of this time. No, that's a bad analogy, because this is nothing like Les Mis. The only reason, but just Infinite Jest, David Foster Wallace is mastered the art of literary comical fiction. That is one of the hardest genres to do, but this is one of the few books that got it right. The only other book that I can possibly think of that got this type of style right is Catch-22. But that's because it's Catch-22, and the reason why this got it is because it's Infinite Jest. You've just gotta read it. It's an experience. It will never be translated into film because it can't be translated into film unless there's like 10 films. It's just amazing. It's amazing. David Foster Wallace is easily becoming one of my new favorites. I love him. And the final book is out of my Sherlock Holmes collection. I finally read another Sherlock Holmes book, and it's The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. And yeah, I really loved it. If it wasn't for 9 stories, this would be my favorite short story collection of all time. I loved it. And there's not really a premise around it because it's a short story collection about Sherlock and Watson going off to solve a case. And that's literally all the stories are, but they're so wonderful. They're so wonderfully written. And there's, like, a lot of great stories in here, but there's one or two that just weren't, like, amazing or anything. They're just like, oh, that's okay, but then you go to another collection, it's like, oh, yay, Sherlock Williams, what am I talking about? Sherlock Holmes, you're good, you're great, yay. I like Sherlock. I should really try the TV show. Last time I watched the TV show, I wasn't a fan, but I should really get back to it. So that was the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know this was kind of a cattywampus video, but I don't care. It's my video. I can do what I want. So anyway, I'm not going to drag out this intro any longer, like I keep saying. I'm Mega Man Chief Fan, and I'll see you later, guys.